So let me see exactly where it is. Here we go. Okay, guys. So we said that we are working on the very first element, which is in this case the vision. So basically, what you guys have to do here, as it says, is to describe what your future looks like. That's exactly what we want to do. So when we talk about the vision of a company, or like a product in this case, there are some elements we must consider, right? So I'm gonna show you just a couple of things. Let me just put this over here, guys. So we know exactly where we want to get. In this moment, you guys only need it to talk about the context in which you guys were going to like design your project in, right? So there are some ideas on tourism and all the other startups on fashion, for instance. That's where we wanted to get. We just needed to pretty much get to that place, to that position, let's say. But now, oh, give me a second. But now the point is to understand a little bit better what the vision implies. Okay, so let me just share my screen so you see exactly what I mean by this. So what we mean by vision, guys, normally this is what we call the vision statement. Can you guys see my screen? There's a presentation here.
Yes,
Mhm.
teacher.
Yes,
Yes.
teacher.
Okay,
Sure.
so it might be a little bit confusing to see that we are starting with a vision, which is something that most of people would do later. They would say first, okay, what are we gonna sell, and so on. But no, in this case, we're gonna start with a vision. And in general terms, we do that because what we're looking for here it's basically inspiration and also like a guiding light that is going to help you design your whole idea. So there are some elements that we should take into account when we are defining a vision statement. So first of all, we have to be concise, so it has to be something specific. You don't have to write something very complex, but it has to be concise. It has to also be clear so we understand with that vision what you do. So if it's a tourism project, we need to understand what you exactly do, you see? And if it's something related to fashion, same thing. It has to be clear what you do. So anybody should understand, especially those people who would use your product or like service or good, they should understand that. Then, I'm sorry, you need to also think of a time horizon, which means that that vision normally should be projected in 5 to 10 years. Okay, so you should think about, okay, I will start with this business idea and I'm positive that this is going, if it's successful, what's going to happen by 5 years. Okay, make it future oriented. So of course it means that the vision refers to as the format says how your future looks like. So it's like I'm gonna start with this company or like with this idea, but in the future, but you have to think about the future of that idea. Then there is another criteria that says that you need to be stable, which means that you need to be consistent in the information you present. I mean the statement itself, and it's a little bit connected with being clear. So it means that um, with examples we're gonna see, it means that it has to be something very specific, but and stable in general terms. You need to also be challenging, so it has to be something that you see as a challenge. So for instance, if it's a service that you're gonna start offering in your local area, like in your city, for instance, but you are challenging and you say this is going to be a service that people in the whole city are going to know about, for instance. You also must be abstract, and you will see with the examples that it's not about focusing only on what you're gonna sell, but also on the values, also on the reasons. That's also something very important. And last but not least, of course, to be inspiring. You need to think a lot about the reasons why you're doing what you do. So, for instance, I was talking to a group that will work on a project related to creating cardboard games or games that children can use for learning. And it's not the same thing if you say we will design games for children who so they learn so their learning process becomes more fluid, for instance, or we're gonna design games for children to learn, versus saying, for instance, we will design low cost games for children who have a special learning needs in um, regions or in areas that have social economical problems, for example. In general terms, that idea implies that you have a reason for doing what you do, that there is a specific context where you want to develop your idea, but at the same time, there is more of the inspiration behind it. So that's very important. So this is just an example of a vision statement, guys. Just to give you an example of a company that we all know. They say people use Facebook to stay connected with friends and family, to discover what's going on in the world, and to share and express what matters to them. You see? So it's inspirational because they talk about family, they talk about the people. So there is this inspirational part, but also we could say that it's also abstract, right? Because they say that Facebook helps people express what matters to them. So that sounds very inspirational. Um, so this is an example of a vision statement. This is more or less how you could write that. It could be in present. You can also write it in future, but this is more or less how you're gonna. This is a very good example of a vision statement that I'd like you guys to put there in that section. We also have another example. We're gonna focus only on the vision. This is the vision of Microsoft. They say to create local opportunity, growth, and impact in every community and country around the world. That is super general, but that's the point with inspiration, right? And the reason why they do stuff. But I believe the best example is this one, Facebook. So I would like you guys to see this as an example of a vision statement that you could write there. Okay, guys. So this is exactly what I'd like you to work on now, if that's okay, guys. I would like you to start working on this statement. As I said, this is something that you can write in present, just like this, or you could also write it in future. So for example, if I wanted to write the same thing in future, I would simply say people will use Facebook, which means that you are going to be, you're talking about this website as something that will be available in the future and people will be able to use. You can also say, for instance, if you focus more on your service. So if your service was Facebook, you would say Facebook will change the way oh my God, I'm so confused today. Facebook will change the way friends and family connect and discover what's going on in the world. It will be a different way of sharing and expressing what matters to them. You see? So in that case, I would be changing the way I express it, but I would be focusing on change. You see? So that's the two things you could do there. You can talk about what your product does, just like this, right? What your solution does, or what your company, let's say, does. Or you can also talk about the changes that you will do in the future. How are you gonna change something in the future with that solution you guys are gonna create? So guys, I'd like to know if you have any questions so far about this part of the vision. No?
Was all right? No question, teacher.
No, teacher.
No questions so far? Okay, so let me go over the format again. So we see a couple of things more. So that's what we're gonna do here, guys. So just focus. I would totally suggest you guys focus on the example from Facebook. I believe that that's a very good example of what we want to do here. Um, you can either write it in present or in future, as I said, and that's the vision, right? Then we are going to talk about the impact. So the impact has to do with the changes that you will get to do with your project. So for instance, let's say here in Vision, we said something like, let me just share my whole screen so I can share several things at the same time. So for example, we are here, right? with vision. And with in the case of vision, we had the example from Facebook, and we say people use Facebook to stay connected with friends and family. Okay, what could be the impact? So an example of impact, you can think of very specific things. It doesn't have to be something super complex, but an example of impact could be, for example, like in the case of Facebook, like for example, 70% of people prefer to share their interests in a social network like Facebook rather than doing it on how do you call that, on blogs, for example. And I'm talking about blogs on Facebook because that's when Facebook was created. So you can talk about numbers because in the future, guys, later you guys will be doing some surveys with a small numbers of people. So, but you can talk about that difference that you will want to make. So for example, this example that you guys have on clothing, because there is a group that wants to work with clothing. So you would say, for example, um, something like more than 50% of our clients would prefer to use secondhand clothes rather than using new clothes that they buy in shops, for instance. Or if you're talking about games for learning, you would say more than 50% of people would prefer to buy cardboard games than to learn using applications. I don't know, just think about the kinds of things that you want to change with your idea. Okay, that's what I'd like you to do, just to think about those changes that you want to make. Okay, guys, so if that's okay with you, I would like you to focus only on those two aspects. Okay, and that's something we're gonna be checking tomorrow, but we're gonna start working on that today. So that's the vision and the impact. So in the case of the vision, is like what you do, and but as a projection in the future, like the example we had on Facebook, and then the impact, the kinds of changes that you want to make. So guys, do you have any question about this?
No, teacher.
No, teacher.
There you go. So I would like you to focus on this, guys, so you can go back to your breakout rooms and just work on vision and impact. This is something we're gonna be sharing with the other groups. So once we finish with the vision and impact, we're gonna present that to another group. So that means that I'm going to pair the groups so you can share with each other what you have done so far. So it's basically, look, I'm gonna tell you about this idea I have. This is our vision. This is the impact we want to do. That's how we're gonna do it. So we're gonna pair the groups so you guys can do that. Um, and that's basically it. And that's gonna be one part of an assignment that we're gonna present the next week. Okay. So far it's just vision and impact. Okay, guys. So if that's okay with you, we're gonna go back to the breakout rooms. We're gonna take a little bit more than 10 minutes for doing this. And in case you have any question about how to write those statements, you can let me know. Because as you can see, there are so many different ways in which we can put it. In the case of the vision, we know that it should be either in simple present or future with will. Those are the two options, the two most obvious options in which we can do it. But also, if you want to have access to more models and ways of doing it, you can simply Google how to vision statement. You can put it like that, how to vision statement. And I'm actually gonna show it to you. You know how to put it. So for example, if you Google that, how to vision statement, you will find lots of different examples. So for example, we've got this article, how to write a good vision statement in 2021, step by step, you see. So this is going to help you a lot. So I'm going to share this link to you with you as well, just to give you an example, because actually there are lots of examples like this that are going to help you. but it's always nice to have these kinds of references. Okay, guys, so vision and impact, that's it. Okay, so let's stop, let's pause here.
Hi, teacher.